Welcome back. Today we are going to talk about the KBEAR Pecker. So it is actually a pretty nice looking build. There's one dynamic driver, two BAs. The shell is actually pretty cool looking. You can see a dynamic driver there. A couple BAs are kind of hiding right there, so not in the nozzle. Good move. Square, kind of 2-pin. That's actually like a blonde style connector. This is, I think, the gray faceplate. So yeah, kind of a cool build. What's actually more impressive than the build is actually the cable and sort of the history behind it. I actually watched HBB kind of rip on the cable, but the cable actually is an old school one that's been around for quite a while. It's a very kind of stringy 4-core, but this is actually the history of it. This is an old KZ cable that was actually a special edition called the Rose Gold cable. And you had to buy this one separately or buy it with a special, I forgot which one it was, a ZSTX or an ES4. There was a very special green version of a KZ model which had a special Rose Gold cable. So you can kind of see where the history of this one actually came from, except the KZ one has nicer QDC connectors, but the rest of it is pretty much identical, including the weird style split there. So there you go. Those were curious why KBEAR used a really stringy cable. Kind of a long, old history there. There's the box. Not a whole lot going on in the box. So for the most part, this is kind of what you see is what you get with Pecker. It is a bassy, fun set. Those who are into mids, not so much. The bass actually bleeds quite a bit into the mids, and even if you're listening to bassy, fun music, this is a perfect set for that. If you're listening to normal, not as bassy music, it will still be bassy. So, good set for hearing a bassy version of your favorite tracks. This part, this little rise here, not so bad. That they actually could have pulled something off pretty good there. So we get some nice pinna gain, and this bassy, fun amount of bass actually works pretty well with this pinna rise right there. And then it kind of drops off, and again, this sort of works pretty well with this. It's just a bassy, fun, non-fatiguing sound to it. I think they were pretty good up until about right there. And then here's where it kind of goes off the rails, and they actually, where the BAs probably kick in and where the channel matching stops working. I think a lot of graphs that I noticed when I was just looking really quickly, they all match to about right here perfectly, and then they kind of go off the rails and start to split off from the channels. I thought that was kind of weird. I thought mine was broken, but then I looked at a couple others, and they essentially all break apart about the same area. But this kind of non-fatiguing presence, dip presence version, bassy fun, I think all that kind of works. But then they put in a really big 8K peak, and you end up with bassy fun with a kind of sibilant, sharp, unnatural sound overlaid on top of the fun. And that's where the whole sound kind of goes not as fun as it really should be. And then they really drop it off really hard, and there's not a whole lot out here past 8K to even fill in or counterbalance this peak here. Like, this is about all you get, and they put as much energy as they could here to balance out with this, and the whole thing ends up sounding pretty bizarre. But it's another one of those sets that sounds okay on some tracks, and some tracks just depends on where it falls into these peaks and valleys. Tracks that fall on the peak sound okay. Tracks that fall into the valley sound very recessed and very low, and not a whole lot there, and just sound kind of weird. So yeah, I think if you're into this part of Pecker, it's actually kind of expensive for what it is, but as far as a bassy fun side set, it's okay. The rest of it, not as much. So that's what I got on Pecker. So thank you guys again for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.